Hey everyone, I hope y'all are doing all right. I hope you guys are having a good day, and if you are wondering about the coat and tie, it is because today was the day that the traditional students had their pictures made for the school yearbook, and tomorrow, don't forget that it is your day to come to the school and get your pictures made for the yearbook. So don't forget, Thursday, tomorrow is your day to come back to school to get your pictures made. Now, today we're going to be continuing talking about what we've been discussing for the past couple of days, and that is a particular type of journalism. Do you remember what type of journalism we talked about the past couple of days? It is broadcast journalism. And today and tomorrow, we are going to be working on a two-part series to discuss broadcast news writing. Now, broadcast news writing is both similar and different from AP style, right? If we remember AP style and we remember all the differences that AP style had from regular writing, writing for broadcast journalism is similar in some aspects and it is different in others. And the reason why is because when you write for broadcast journalism, you aren't writing for a publication in the same way that you write for a print publication, but rather you write for a person to read off of a teleprompter. And a teleprompter, again, it's a monitor that looks kind of similar to that ClearTouch over there, but it is a monitor that a news anchor reads when they read the news. Now, oftentimes, especially at smaller publications, when you're writing for yourself because oftentimes our anchors will write their own scripts so that they know ahead of time of what they are supposed to be reading. But there are particular styles and there are particular nuances to this kind of writing. First and foremost, you want to make sure that you have correct spelling when you write. You want to make sure that all of your words are spelled correctly and that you are using proper grammar for the most part. There are only a few exceptions that we're about to talk about, but you want to make sure that the words are spelled correctly so that you can read them properly. There is an exception to this rule, though, and that exception is in hard to pronounce words. If there is a word that is difficult to pronounce, you want to write it using phonetic spelling, and this is what I mean. I would like for each of you to, at home, try to pronounce this word. That is K-A-L-E-I-D-O-S-C-O-P-I-C. What word is that? That is kaleidoscopic. That is kaleidoscopic. Now, if I were to write that for a teleprompter, I would not spell it as Kaleidoscopic. I would spell it phonetically. Now, to spell it phonetically means that I spell it in the way that it sounds. So, in doing that, I might spell it like this. And take a second, actually. Go ahead and take a second and spell kaleidoscopic the way that it sounds. So go ahead and take a second. It doesn't have to be spelled correctly per se. It doesn't have to even make sense written out, as long as the only kind of sense it makes, at the very least, is you could read it and pronounce it. So go ahead and take a second. Try to write kaleidoscopic in a way that if you read it, just the letters, you could come up with the word. Now, I'm going to be doing the same thing, and so if you haven't quite written it down or thought about how you would do it, then you'll pause this video so that you can take another look at it and kind of compare afterwards. Now, the way that you write it might not have looked similarly to mine, but this is a way that I might have written it. I might have written is it D? Kaleidoscopic. That's what I mean when I say that you want to write words phonetically. You want to write out the sounds that they make so that you are more prepared and that you know that when you read that word that you are going to be reading it correctly, that you will be able to pronounce it correctly. Now, let's talk about punctuation as well. When it comes to punctuation, right, we use punctuation to help break up our sentences and help the flow of a sentence. So if we have a sentence that we are writing for broadcasting, we don't want to end our sentences with periods unless it's the very end of the broadcast or of the segment. And we don't even want to use commas either. We want to use ellipses. And this is what I mean. This is what it would look like. Again, using the notepad, if we were to have a story, and the story was the man in the purple suit entered the bank with an empty bag, comma, but left with a full one, period. He has not been found. So we're reading a story about a bank robber, and our sentence is, the man in the purple suit entered the bank with an empty bag, but left with a full one. But he left with a full one. He has not been found. However, when writing it for broadcast, we would write it as such. The man in the purple suit entered the bank with an empty bag, ... but he left with a full one, ... He has not been found. The reason why we do that, so now we have the man in the purple suit entered the bank with an empty bag, but he left with a full one. He has not been found. The reason why we do this is so that as we read on a teleprompter, and again, ultimately broadcast news writing is meant for a teleprompter, it is because periods can sometimes look like commas, and commas can sometimes look like periods. Plus, we want to make absolutely sure that our anchors, even if our anchors are ourselves, we want to make absolutely sure that they know when the natural stops are in a sentence, that they know when they can take a breath, and that they know the right cadence, the right pacing at which to read. Next, you want to use hyphens, and you want to use hyphens pretty religiously, fairly often. That's what religiously means in this context. You want to use hyphens often when using complicated words. For instance, look back at the way that I spelled kaleidoscopic. The use of the hyphens here helps me break up these groups of 2 or 3 letters into multiple fragments so that I'm not trying to even say the phonetically word in some way that it's not meant to be. I'm breaking it up by syllable. Kaleidoscopic. Of course, scopic would have another syllable if I did it, or another hyphen if I did it all the way by syllables, but with these extra non-standard spellings, right? The Kuhlie for Kalai. I want to have that hyphen there so that I know where each syllable ends for my, or so that I know what each syllable is meant to be for my new spelling. And then at the very end, I kind of cheated because I know reading scopic that it's pronounced scopic. but you want to use hyphens as well to help kind of break up some of those tougher words. And it doesn't have to be for a word that you spelled phonetically. If you're writing a regular word and you're spelling that word correctly, but it's a difficult word, you want to go ahead and use hyphens as well, just to help break it up so that you don't accidentally stumble or trip over your own words. Now, when it comes to numbers, the numbers here are slightly different than in AP style. For numbers 1 through 11, you use the words instead of AP style where it was 1 through 9. In broadcast, 1 through 11, you write out the words. So instead of writing 2 ones for 11, you write ELEVEN. Now, numbers 12 and up, you go ahead and use the numeral. You just write the 1 and the 3 for 13 instead of spelling out THIRTEEN. When it comes to numbers higher than 999, use the numeral and the words. Now, this is similar to AP style. This is what we have already looked at with AP style. For instance, we have 12 million, right? And why do we have that 12 right there as opposed to it being written out? Well, because again, we have the number right here, numbers 12 and up, we write them out. And then we have 7 million. So then why is 7 written out as a word? Well, because does 7 fall in between 1 and 11? It sure does. Now, if the story begins with numbers, go ahead and use words to clarify the start of the story. For example, if we were to have a story about this year, I might write 2020 has struck again. Now, if you were to read this, 2020 has struck again, what am I talking about? I'm talking about the years, right? So, because this is the start of the news story, though, I want to go ahead and write out 2020 as a note to me, the anchor, that the story is about to begin. This new segment is about to begin. After that, I will just go back to writing 2020 for 2020. Now, you also want to go ahead and round up numbers. For example, instead of saying $12.34, just say it's just over $12 or around $12. We don't need to worry about the details, and the reason why is because broadcast journalism is meant to be conversational, or at least appear to be conversational. So in the same way that I'm trying to make a concerted effort to flip the camera back to me some more so that these videos seem more conversational, a little bit more personal, that's kind of like how broadcast journalism is meant to be. It is meant to seem like the news anchors are really there in your living room telling you personally about the news. And so if you were out shopping and you told your friend that you purchased something for $20, but after tax it was actually $20.19, most people won't worry about that extra 19 cents. They'll just say it was about $20. Well, in broadcast journalism, it's the same kind of idea. And finally, when it comes to time, go ahead and say tonight or tomorrow morning. Instead of saying 7 p.m., say 7 tonight or 7 tomorrow night. Or instead of 8 a.m., it is 8 tomorrow morning. And that kind of reflects back to an AP style. Remember how we don't write 12 p.m.? Because what time of day is 12 p.m.? Is 12 p.m. when it's sunny outside or when it's dark outside? It's when it's sunny outside, right? But in AP style, we don't do that. We just write noon or midnight. That way our readers understand, oh, it's the sunny time or the nighttime. Well, in the same way, AM and PM might still get some of our listeners, our viewers confused. And so we want to make sure that we take away any kind of confusion. And so that is 12 tonight, 12 tomorrow night, 8 in the morning, 8 o'clock in the morning, things like that. So that is the first portion. That is our introduction to writing in broadcast journalism, and we will pick this up tomorrow. Now, I've told some of you that I've been working on getting grades completed. I had some things come up last night that I wasn't quite able to get done, but that is now today's next item on my agenda is to get our grades caught up as best as I can. If I haven't quite gotten them in yet, please be patient. Thank you for your continued patience. but rest assured, I will get your grades caught up, just as quickly as I can. And certainly you will have plenty of time to review your grades and speak with me if you have any concerns about your grade before the grading period ends. But with that, I hope you all have a wonderful day. Again, don't forget about your interview. Your list of people that you would like to interview. You're only interviewing one of these people, right? You're only picking one person out of the list that you send me, but I just wanted you to come up with a list so that you had some backup plans just in case something fell through. Also with that, you are perfectly free to use that list of 10 questions that I gave you as your guide for the interview sheet. Now, you might not wind up using but only 2 or 3 of those questions, and that's okay. An interview is a conversation, and so I want you to remember that when So I want you to remember that it's okay that we are not necessarily following all 10 questions, right? If you're interviewing a grandparent and you ask your grandmother what her life was like when she was a child, and you have a 30-minute conversation about her childhood, and so you don't even get to her career, well, that's okay, right? That's fine. Because ultimately, the purpose of these interviews is that in a few weeks' time, you will be writing a story, a new story about that person's life. And so that is one reason why I wanted it to be an adult, so that you could write about their life as they present it to you. Again, you can follow those 10 questions. The story that you will write will be about the length of one typed page. So it needs to try to make it at least a 10-minute conversation, at least a 10-minute interview. It doesn't have to be an hour-long interview, though, but it's going to be about 1 page of typed story. And again, we'll have plenty of time to work on it. We'll have plenty of days, plenty of weeks to put it all together and help balance it with the rest of your classes. So I know this video is a little bit longer, but I really wanted to go ahead and talk about your interviews as well. If you have any more questions, please feel free to get back in touch with me, and I hope you all have a wonderful day.